They were America's perfect family. But behind the smiles on the Brady Bunch, the father was hiding something the country only learned the day he died. And one of the boys was secretly dating someone on that set he never should have. 57 years later, this is where they all are.
Number 1 is Barry Williams, who played Greg Brady and who has spent more time keeping the Brady Bunch alive in American memory than every other castmate combined. He was 14 when the show premiered, born Barry William Blankhorn in Santa Monica, California, on September 30th, 1954. Williams had decided to be an actor by age 11, made his television debut on Dragnet at 13, and was the oldest Brady boy by enough of a margin to anchor the older kid plots almost single-handed. Greg was the firstborn, the cool one, the one who quit playing the trumpet to start a rock band called the Banana Convention. What most viewers never knew until Williams wrote it in his 1992 memoir, Growing Up Brady, is that he once asked Florence Henderson out on a date when he was 15, and she said yes. They went to dinner. He kissed her goodnight. Henderson handled the whole thing with the warmth that made Carol Brady work in the first place. Williams has said since that the date was one of the most formative evenings of his teenage life. He married 3 times. His marriage to Marge Walcott in 1990 produced son Brandon. His marriage to Isla Mary Matt in 1999 produced daughter Samantha. A long-term partnership with girlfriend Tina Mahina has continued since 2017. Williams toured with Branson productions of The Sound of Music and Romance Romance. He competed on Dancing with the Stars in 2008 and The Masked Singer in 2024 alongside Lookinland and Night. He is 71 and still touring. Greg Brady was the rock star who could not write a song. Barry Williams became the family's official biographer, kissed his TV mother once when he was a teenager, and is the cast member who has spent every decade of the half-century since making sure no one ever forgets what the Bradys actually were. Number 2 is Florence Henderson, who played Carol Brady and who, by the time the show found her, had already outrun more of life than any of her castmates would in their entire careers. She was 35 when the show premiered, born Florence Agnes Henderson in Dale, Indiana on February 14, 1934. The youngest of 10 children in a family barely held together by a tenant farmer father whose drinking eventually drove her mother out of the house when Florence was 12. She sang for grocery money as a child. She was put through the American Academy of Dramatic Arts on a scholarship in 1952 and was starring in the title role of Fanny on Broadway by 25. By 1959, she was the first official Today Girl on NBC. She was famous twice before the Bradys hired her. Carol was a role her best friend Shirley Jones had turned down to do The Partridge Family the following year. Henderson spent the entire run of the show commuting between Los Angeles and her family's home in New York, where her 4 children with first husband Ira Bernstein were waiting: Joseph, Barbara, Elizabeth, and Robert. The marriage lasted from 1956 to 1985, and the strain of the bi-coastal Brady years was part of what ended it. Her second marriage to hypnotherapist Dr. John Kappas in 1987 lasted until his death in 2002. She got certified in hypnotherapy herself during that marriage and said later that if she had not had her career, she would have done it full-time. Henderson's last decade was busier than most actors' first. Dancing with the Stars in 2010 at 76, a cooking show, a talk show on RLTV called The Florence Henderson Show, a Hollywood Walk of Fame star granted on her 62nd birthday. She was in the audience at Dancing with the Stars on November 21, 2016, cheering on Maureen McCormick. 3 days later, on November 24, 2016, she died of heart failure at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles at age 82. Family and friends surrounded her bedside. She is buried at Westwood Village Memorial Park in Los Angeles, in the same cemetery as Marilyn Monroe, Dean Martin, Truman Capote, and Jim Backus. Carol Brady was a stepmother who could solve any problem in 23 minutes. Florence Henderson grew up in an Indiana house she was not sure she would survive and spent the rest of her life giving every camera that found her exactly the warmth her own childhood had refused her. Number 3 is Susan Olsen, who played Cindy Brady, and who, at 64, has spent more of her life away from Hollywood than in it. She was 8 years old when the show premiered, born in Santa Monica, California on August 14, 1961, the youngest of the 6 Brady kids by a margin of months. Cindy was the lisp, the pigtails, the youngest sister, the one whose tattling drove half the plots of the early seasons. Olsen played her without performance. The lisp was real, the youngest child energy was real, and the show did not require her to invent very much. After the show ended in 1974, she finished a graphic arts degree, married twice, divorced twice. Her first marriage to surfer-turned-businessman Steve Ventimiglia produced no kids. Her second marriage to film editor Mitch Lampley also ended.
What most viewers do not know is that the woman who played Cindy Brady is a working graphic artist, an animal rescue advocate, and one of the most outspoken Brady alumni when it comes to her own honest opinion of the show. She has said in recent years that she did not always think the Brady Bunch was cool while they were making it. She is currently an acting coach at Vibe Performing Arts in Santa Clarita, California. Cindy Brady was the youngest Brady on a show that was already pretending the kids never grew up. Susan Olsen actually grew up, walked away from the spotlight on her own terms, and is still, quietly, deliberately, the most private of the 6. Number 4 is Mike Lookinland, who played Bobby Brady, the smallest Brady boy whose voice the show could never quite figure out what to do with after it cracked. He was 8 when the show premiered, born in Mount Vernon, New York on December 19, 1960, the same year John F. Kennedy was elected president. The Lookinland family moved to Los Angeles when Mike was a child to support his acting career, and he was working professionally before he was 10. Bobby was the baby brother, the boy who shadowed Greg, the kid who got the dog. After the show ended, Lookinland struggled. In his own recent telling, his post-Brady years went, in his words, off the rails for a long stretch. He pulled out of it. He married Kelly Wormuth in 1987, and the marriage has held for 39 years. They had 2 sons, Scott and Joe. In 2002, Lookinland left Los Angeles entirely for Salt Lake City, Utah, where he runs a custom concrete countertop and furniture business called Lookinland Concrete Studios. He still does the occasional Brady reunion appearance and reunited with his castmates for HGTV's A Very Brady Renovation in 2019, where the 6 kids actually went back to the North Hollywood house used for the show's exterior shots and renovated it together. Bobby Brady wanted to drive a race car in 1972. Mike Lookinland builds kitchen counters in Utah in 2026, raised 2 sons of his own, and quietly built the most stable post-Brady life of any of the 6 kids. If you have made it this far and you are enjoying the channel, please subscribe. The Brady Bunch is the kind of cast that takes weeks to research properly. Burial locations, death certificates, marriage records, all of it gets verified before a single line gets written. Your subscription is what keeps that work possible. Number 5 is Eve Plum, who played Jan Brady and who, more than 50 years after the show first aired, is releasing a memoir about it on April 28, 2026. She was 11 when the show premiered, born in Burbank, California on April 29, 1958, the daughter of 2 parents working in the entertainment industry. Plum had been acting professionally since age 6. She had already appeared opposite Maureen McCormick in a 1966 Mattel Chatty Cathy commercial 3 years before either of them auditioned for the Brady role. Jan Brady was the middle Brady sister, the one who was not Marcia, the one whose entire emotional arc the show compressed into one line that Americans still quote 55 years later. Marcia, Marcia, Marcia. After the show ended, Plum made the cleanest break of any of the Brady kids from their characters. She turned down the Brady Bride spin-off in 1981. She continued acting in independent films and on Broadway, where she received critical acclaim in Miss Abigail's Guide to Dating, Mating, and Marriage. She married land surveyor Ken Pace in 1995 and has been with him for 31 years. No children. She is now a full-time fine art painter with gallery shows in New York, and her memoir, Happiness Included, was published in late April 2026. The decades-long off-screen feud with Maureen McCormick, which Susan Olsen confirmed publicly in 2015 and dates back to the 1970s, appears in 2020
1926 to have cooled, though neither actress speaks about it publicly anymore. Jan Brady spent 5 seasons in her older sister's shadow. Eve Plum stepped out of that shadow at 16 and has spent the half-century since making sure her name on a gallery wall has nothing to do with the one her sister kept saying.
Number 6 is Christopher Knight, who played Peter Brady, and whose post-show life has been the most unpredictable arc of any of the 6 kids. He was 11 when the show premiered, born in Manhattan on November 7, 1957, raised in California after his family moved west, and was already a child actor on Gunsmoke and Bonanza before the Bradys called. Peter was the middle Brady boy, the one between Greg and Bobby, the one whose adolescent voice change the show built an entire episode around. Knight has said publicly that the income from the show paid his family's bills entirely, that his parents would have not survived financially without his check, and that the show got him to 18. What most viewers never knew is that Knight left acting at 18 and spent the next 20 years in the technology industry, eventually becoming an executive at New Frontier Media and Visual Software. He returned to public life in 2004 as the unlikely lead of the VH1 reality show My Fair Brady, which followed his relationship with America's Next Top Model winner Adrian Curry. They married in 2006 and divorced in 2012. He has been married 4 times. His current wife, Kara Kokonis, blessed by Florence Henderson in 2016, weeks before her death, has been his partner since 2016. Knight runs a furniture brand and co-hosts the Real Brady Bros podcast with Barry Williams. He is 68 and still working. Peter Brady was the middle child whose voice cracked on national television. Christopher Knight cracked the same voice 4 marriages, 2 tech careers, and 1 reality show later, and made peace with the show that paid for the life he is still building. Number 7 is Ann B. Davis, who played Alice Nelson and who in 1976, 2 years after the show ended, sold her Hollywood house, packed a bag, and walked away from the industry to live for the rest of her life inside an Episcopal Christian community. She was 43 when the show premiered. Born Ann Bradford Davis in Schenectady, New York on May 3, 1926, the youngest of 4 children. With an identical twin sister Harriet, she would later say was the basis for everything she did as Alice. Her father was an electrical engineer for General Electric. Her mother was a homemaker and suffragist. Davis enrolled at the University of Michigan in 1944 as a pre-med student, inspired by the female doctor who had delivered the twins, before switching to drama after seeing her brother perform in a touring company of Oklahoma. Most viewers never knew that Davis had won 2 Primetime Emmy Awards before she ever put on Alice's blue and white maid's uniform. She played Charmaine Schultz on The Bob Cummings Show from 1955 to 1959. 2 wins. 4 nominations, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on February 9, 1960, granted at age 33. She replaced Carol Burnett on Broadway in Once Upon a Mattress later that same year. She was already a Hollywood veteran when the Brady Bunch called. She never married, no children. After the show ended, she sold her Los Angeles house and joined the Episcopal community led by Bishop William Frey, first in Denver, then in Ambridge, Pennsylvania, then in San Antonio, Texas. She lived with Bill and Barbara Frey for 38 years. She sang in the choir at St. Helena's Episcopal Church in Bernie. She became a lay Eucharistic minister. She returned to acting only for Brady Bunch revivals and the occasional Broadway run of Crazy for You. On the morning of June 1, 2014, the Freys realized she had missed her weekly hair appointment. She was found unconscious in her bathroom from a subdural hematoma sustained in a fall the night before. Davis died at University Hospital in San Antonio that day at age 88. She was cremated and interred at St. Helena's Columbarium and Memorial Gardens in Bernie, Texas, the same parish where she had sung in the choir. Maureen McCormick said Davis had made her a better person. Alice held the Brady house together for 5 seasons. Ann B. Davis held a church choir together for the next 38 years and gave up Hollywood not because Hollywood had given up on her, but because she had stopped seeing the point. Robert Reed, who played Mike Brady and whose death certificate did something most actors never have to worry about. It told the truth. Reed was 36 when the show premiered and 41 when it ended. He had been cast as a consolation prize after a different network project was retooled with a black lead, and he spent the next 5 years calling the scripts embarrassing in writing to producer Sherwood Schwartz. Born John Robert Reitz Jr. in Highland Park, Illinois on October 19, 1932, Reed had trained at Northwestern University and at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London, and he carried Shakespeare in his head for the rest of his life. He had been Kenneth Preston on The Defenders for 4 seasons opposite his acting mentor E.G. Marshall before the Brady Bunch called. Here is what most viewers never knew about him. Reed was gay. He spent 35 years in Hollywood under a stage name that gave him just enough privacy to fill prescriptions under his birth name Reitz and keep his health records out of the columns. He had been married once, to Marilyn Rosenberger, from 1954 to 1959, the marriage producing a daughter, Karen Baldwin. The marriage was a cover. Reed never remarried, never publicly partnered, and never came out. His diagnosis with HIV came in the spring of 1991. The colon lymphoma followed that November. He confided in only 2 people, his close friend Anne Haney and his daughter Karen. Florence Henderson learned later. Reed died at Huntington Memorial Hospital in Pasadena on May 12, 1992, at age 59. The Associated Press obtained his death certificate within days. The HIV listing, in physician H. Rex Green's handwriting, made the wires before the funeral. His mother, Helen, and his daughter, Karen, did not attend the memorial. Florence Henderson was there, so was E.G. Marshall.
Reed was cremated, and his ashes were interred at Memorial Park Cemetery in Skokie, Illinois, beside his grandparents Harvey and Elizabeth Reitz. Mike Brady was the most idealized father in American television. Robert Reed was a closeted Shakespearean who hid a terminal diagnosis from a network, a daughter, and a country until a leaked piece of paperwork said the rest for him. Number 10 is the last name on this list, and the one whose life since the show ended has carried the heaviest weight. Maureen McCormick played Marcia Brady, the oldest Brady daughter, the most asked about Brady on every cast member's behalf for 50 years.
She was 12 when the show premiered, born in Encino, California on August 5, 1956, and was working professionally by 6, voicing the Chatty Cathy doll in commercials by 10. Marcia was the eldest sister, the homecoming queen, the one in the leading role, the one whose pratfall with the football to the nose is the single most quoted Brady moment in American television history. Most viewers never knew that the woman who played Marcia spent the entire back half of the 1970s and most of the 1980s addicted to cocaine, lost in a depression she would later say nearly killed her, and turning down auditions because she could not show up sober. She wrote about all of it in her 2008 memoir, Here's the Story. She got clean, she married musician Michael Cummings on March 16, 1985, and that marriage has now lasted 40 years, the longest of any Brady kid. Their daughter Natalie Michelle was born in 1989.
McCormick has continued working, Dancing with the Stars in 2007, Outsiders on WGN, Frozen in Time on HGTV, the 2019 Very Brady renovation with all 5 surviving castmates, and a 2025 return visit to the actual North Hollywood Brady house that broke her open emotionally on camera. She is 69 as I record this. She lives in California with Michael Cummings, near their daughter and grandchildren. Marcia Brady was the prettiest girl in the room and the one everything came easy to. Maureen McCormick was the kid who got the same lines and then spent 20 years finding out at the bottom of a bag of cocaine that being the prettiest girl in the room was not the same thing as being okay. She came back. She is still here.